Welcome everyone to the all-important clash in the 7th round of the Prague Masters. Nodirbek Abdusattorov is leading with 4 out of 6. He takes on Vincent Keymer. They've played several classical games before, but many of them have been drawn. Tata Steel they drew, but at the WR Masters in 2023, Vincent did win with the white pieces. He had opened the game with d4 back then. He does so today as well. d5 by Abdusattorov, and now Vincent goes c4. Now, most likely Abdusattorov likes to play concrete openings, and so he goes for d takes c4 as well. The Queen's Gambit accepted, and e4 is on the board. Knight c6. Wow, this is not the most common way to play. It's also a bit provocative, to be honest. d4 pawn was attacked. Vincent defends it. Now you pin it again. Once again threatening to take, and then d4 would hang. So he plays d5 here, pushing the knight away. The knight comes to e5. This is pinned. And if you give a check, I can move back to bishop d7, hitting your queen. So the knight comes out. Vincent moving quickly and developing all his pieces. He doesn't seem to be surprised. Bishop e3. Bringing a bishop out here. White has excellent space in the center, so he should definitely have a small edge. Now white can break the pin with bishop e2, but he goes h3. Going back doesn't make sense, as you will get hit by g4. So Nodirbek takes here on f3, and after g takes f3, now this bishop has to move again. You can go back here, but then e5 would push the knight away, so he goes bishop h5. And the point is, after e5, knight d7, there's no f4, because then the queen would be attacked. So he goes bishop takes c4, and Nodirbek pushes his pawn to e5. Very important move. And now d takes e6 would have been such an interesting position here, and white would be slightly better. But bishop e2 played here by Vincent, and I think Nodirbek is very happy, because now his bishop sits pretty on d6. He can castle and later on just start pushing his pawns. Queen b3 played by white, and now b5. Fantastic move here by Nodirbek Abdusattorov. a4 played here by Vincent, and now takes. The thing is, if you play b4, the c4 square is weakened and the knight can reroute to it. So ba, queen a4, and now the knight goes back to d7. Black's idea is to castle and go f5, but Vincent says, are you sure you want to castle? My rook is on the open file. Nodirbek, unfazed, undeterred, plays short castles. The aim is now to play f5 there. Queen c2, maybe trying to stop this move. a5 played, also defending the pawn, because it's become a little weak here. Whoa, knight b5. He's not just looking at these squares, but I believe he also wants to go from a7 to c6. Queen e7 played, and now rook a4 would be such a classy move, just stopping this pawn from advancing, making it a weakness. No, he goes knight a7, and this, dear friends, is the start of a plan which is very, very dangerous, because yes, you will put your knight on a great square, but if black starts to attack, the knight can be thoroughly misplaced there, and he plays f5. Great move by Nodirbek Abdusattorov, and now the king on e1 does feel slightly awkward. Queen f7 played, putting pressure down the f file. There's also pressure down here, so black does have some pressure, but white pushes forward. Nodirbek has to decide now how to continue. I think taking here could be a very, very interesting idea. fe, fe, and then maybe just taking on e2 could be possible. He takes his time here to think what to do, and goes king h8, which is a logical move to play, just tucking the king on the side. And now rook to g5, threatening. Rook takes f5, queen e8 played. He's okay with take, and take, and I think white should play it. Even though he would get tripled pawns, it's still a fine position to play. But Vincent is taking his time. He has 16 minutes only. He's gone down on time, while Nodirbek has more time on the clock. And what is Vincent thinking? He goes king d1. Maybe he wants to go rook a4 next and then move his king to c1 to b1, and I think Nodirbek now has to figure things out, because white's king is sort of running away, so he pushes the rook away, and I think really now white should take. No, but he goes back, and this is a bad decision by Vincent, because now this classy move by Nodirbek, which is a4, can be played just so that rook a4 doesn't come, solidifying the center, and he finds it. Beautiful chess there by Nodirbek. Such strong moves. Rook takes a4 played, and you will see that suddenly the entire game is now shifted to the center. The queen is deflected away from the defense of the e2 bishop, and after queen takes a4, now you chop in the center. F takes e4. Yes, you take it, and if queen takes e4, then there is knight f6 and queen f7. The d5 pawn would be soft, so he goes fe4, but spare a thought for this king. Now bishop takes bishop, check, king takes. The king is right in the center of the board. White is a pawn up. You can see white has 5 pawns, black has 4, but now the attack comes in. First a check, queen h5, and now where can the king go? Because h4 pawn is hanging. He goes king d3, and black now can come in with the queen. Yes, queen f3, and his idea is to give a check and win this queen. That's this plan. So Vincent needs to move his king away. He plays king c2. Knight comes into f6, attacking the e4 point. And now queen to c4 played. E4 pawn is falling. You will see that although white is a pawn up, f2 is falling, h4 is loose, d5 is loose. In fact, it can very much happen that from being a pawn up, now that it's equal, white will lose several pawns. So rook f1 played, and Nodirbek Abdusattorov can actually go knight f6, attacking the pawn on d5. That's a great idea. Yes, knight f6 played, and now the d5 pawn is hanging. Knight g4 is threatened. Plays rook d1, trying to defend the d5 pawn, but Nodirbek of course is ready to move the knight from the other side, and it doesn't help that Vincent has such less time on the clock. With a tough position and less time on the clock, and Nodirbek moving confidently, this is becoming very difficult. He defends e3. You could not defend both the points, and now f2 is falling. He takes it. The bishop is hanging. So now from being pawn up, white is 1 pawn down, and black's bishop here is so pretty. Actually, the bishop holds the entire position together, and look at that knight on c6. It has done nothing apart from looking pretty. It's one of those superfluous pieces which looks beautiful but is doing nothing in the position. And now Nodirbek can actually decide from many options on what he wants to do. He goes queen f1, pinning the rook, so that knight e5, bishop e5, rook e5 isn't possible. The queen would be hanging, and now after queen e4, trying to once again put some pressure here on e5. Well, Nodirbek's rook now says, I also want to join the party, and queen e3. There are many ways to take advantage of this. I think Nodirbek is just an expert at finishing off these positions. A good move is to give a check. And the check is on the board. The king has to move. Vincent moves, and now another pawn most likely bites the dust. Rook takes h4 is incoming. That's exactly what happens. Nodirbek is now 2 pawns up. d5 is weak, b2 is weak, but more importantly the king is weak, and I think Vincent Keymer has no real chances left in this position. A very logical decision here would be to resign the game. But he's thinking, he's taking his time, he's swiveling the pawn in his hand. He's just surveying the position and then resigns. A win for Nodirbek, perhaps his first ever in classical chess over Vincent Keymer.